Hey everyone, and welcome to my healthy kitchen. My name is Bridget Davis. I hope you're well and I hope you are safe today. Thank you for joining me. This is a great little episode we're doing today, and yes, as I suggested in the header for this video, we're making apple cider lollies, but not apple cider as in the alcohol, apple cider as in the vinegar. So we're making vinegar lollies. Yeah, doesn't sound too great, right? Even my son asked me this morning, he's like, Mum, you're making lollies using vinegar? I'm like, yes son, I am, and I have a really good reason for doing that. So you are in the right place today if you're joining me to find out what is the buzz about these apple cider vinegar lollies. Do they even taste good? Should you be having them? And I thought I would start the class off with just a few little health benefits of apple cider vinegar and why I suggest you start to incorporate it into your diet. So what people have been known to do, and I actually started exploring the idea of apple cider vinegar gummies or lollies. I started exploring it because what I was in my own journey to health, what I was realizing is that there's every possibility that I had quite low stomach acid. Now it's really common, a lot more common than you probably believe, to have low stomach acid. And stomach acid, despite it being kind of portrayed as something you don't want to have, stomach acid is extremely important for our health and our wellness, because without stomach acid or enough stomach acid, we are unable to digest our food properly. And when we're unable to digest our food properly, we have gas, we have bloating, we have malnutrition because we're not able to absorb the nutrients that are present in the food we're eating. And this all has to do with having low levels of acid. Now, in your stomach, we produce something known as hydrochloric acid, and that's really acidic. It sits on around about the pH scale of about 2, with water being 7. So the lower you get in the pH scale, the more acidic something is. And 2 is pretty acidic. It's pretty acidic. Apple cider vinegar sits at around about 3, just over 3 on the acid level. So if you currently don't have enough acid in your stomach to be able to digest the food that you're eating, it can cause quite a few problems. So one of the reasons that we may not have a lot of acid in our stomach has to do with things like stress. Like when we are under stress, basically our body goes into digestion hibernation, stops digesting. And when it stops digesting, I'm not just talking about a stressful situation, but if you're under chronic stress all the time, your body actually stops the digestion process. It goes into hibernation because it wants to allocate the energy that you would normally spend on digestion somewhere else, because as far as your body is concerned, you're stressed, meaning there's a stressful situation somewhere. But it could be just this chronic stress that we're constantly living in because of our busy lifestyles, and we're chronically under digesting our food because our digestion stops. And when our digestion stops, our acid production stops. So that's one of the reasons why you may have low stomach acid, not even realize it. Another thing that interferes with the production of stomach acid is alcohol as well. So if you regularly consume alcohol, you could be underproducing stomach acid. Another thing is, which is probably the worst thing for producing stomach acid, or not enough of it, is if you regularly use things like antacids, over-the-counter antacids, because you get heartburn or you get acid reflux. So you're using acid to stop the production. You're using these tablets to stop the production of acid. Well, that can have really dire consequences on your digestive health. So they're one of the worst things that we can do. And also things like eating too much protein. If you have a diet that's really heavy in beef or in pork or lamb, that can also really interfere with your stomach acid. But just being nutrient deficient in general can also interfere with it. And for people who have had weight loss surgery, so bariatric surgery like lap bands or things like that put into their body, they also underproduce stomach acid as well. So it's really important for us to have enough stomach acid in our stomach, because without it we're unable to digest our food properly, and that can lead to things like I was saying, bloating, gas. It can also lead to pain and discomfort, because basically when you're not digesting the food that you're eating properly, it sits in your stomach and it begins to ferment and it begins to rot and it begins to bubble up. So if you're someone who suffers from acid reflux, there is every possibility that you may not have enough stomach acid. So when you have that antacid to stop the acid reflux, you're actually making the condition worse, because when you don't have that acid in your stomach, the food literally rots and ferments, and then you get this half digested food being sent into your intestines, and that's what's causing gas and bloating and cramping and all things like that. So there's also the whole concept or idea that if you're not digesting the food you're eating, your body's not able to absorb all the value, all the goodness, all the nutrients from that food. So you can see where I'm going with this, right? Having low stomach acid is actually not ideal. We want to have a balance within our stomach. And this apple cider vinegar lolly that I'm going to teach you is one way that we can begin to create more balance in our stomach. Now, I actually designed this for our next boost camp, which starts on the 19th of July. And this particular lolly, so this is for you campers out there, you're going to be making these and you're going to be having them during our boost camp, because they're that good. And I want to make sure that you are getting in there and you're digesting the food and you're balancing your stomach acid so you're able to extract all the nutrients that you need from your food. So boost campers, if you're a boost camper, pay special attention. Of course, as always, I will share this recipe with everyone tomorrow as a PDF, but boost campers, this is your cooking class as well. So here we go. Let's get into the recipe. I can talk more about apple cider vinegar and why it's so important as we're going along as well. It is a simple, very simple recipe, and it's full of really wonderful ingredients. Obviously, we've talked about this, apple cider vinegar. It is the basis of these particular lollies, and what you need to make sure that you choose when you are purchasing your apple cider vinegar is you want to get a raw apple cider vinegar, ideally organic and unfiltered. What that basically means, you can see why it's kind of cloudy, is it hasn't had the mother taken out of it. So this particular version here is completely natural, which is what you want to get. Now, there's not a lot of nutrients in apple cider vinegar. It's not very nutrient dense, but obviously it's going to help us to balance out our stomach acid, which is really, really important. That's what makes it so incredibly good. And you guys know I use a lot of this stuff in my cooking. It goes into sticky sauce. It also goes into all my pickles. And now you can enjoy it as a lolly as well. So that's the first thing. Make sure you choose a raw, unfiltered, organic apple cider vinegar. That's the first one. The next ingredient you need to think about is our grass-fed gelatin. That's what's going to make our lolly turn into basically a gummy. And the one that I'm using here, this is a natural grass-fed gelatin. It comes from beef, and it's produced here in Australia. And the reason why you want to go for grass-fed is because you want to make sure that it is the highest quality gelatin that you can purchase, and it's also obviously produced here locally from local animals, and it's sustainably sourced as well. So you want to choose a grass-fed, make sure it's a grass-fed gelatin, the best quality gelatin you can buy. If you're struggling to find this, I've never seen this in a supermarket. I bought this from, you can get it online. You can buy it online. I suggest you do that. This is where I get my grass-fed gelatin from. I also find it's a little bit cheaper than some of the health food stores as well. So that's the first thing that we need to think about. You got those two ingredients, you're doing pretty good. So we're going to start off by adding a little bit of water to a bowl. And we're going to be doing what is known as blooming the gelatin. So we're just going to be helping the gelatin to start to begin to get to work. So you want to add into here, you want to add in 60 mils, which is 2 ounces of filtered water. And I'm just measuring everything straight onto my scale just to make sure that I get it right. So 60 mils, and to that 60 mils, we're going to be adding in 25 grams, which is about 1/8 of an ounce, 25 grams of our grass-fed gelatin. Now, gelatin is flavorless, has absolutely no flavor, but it is what you use to basically make jelly. So you can imagine it has quite an incredible thickening process that it is capable of doing. So 25 grams, which is about 1/8 of an ounce, and we're just going to leave this here to do its thing, and that thing is known as blooming, and you're going to see it begin to thicken up quite nicely for us. So that's the first step. Leave that. You need to let it bloom for about 10 minutes it's going to take for it to be ready to be added to the next stage. So over to my pot here, I'm going to add pretty much the remainder of the ingredients. So of course, we can't forget what one of those really important ingredients is. It's our apple cider vinegar, and we're going to be adding in 120 mils, which is 4 ounces of our raw, unfiltered, organic apple cider vinegar. So 4 ounces of that goes in. We're going to be adding some water as well, 120 mils again, so 4 ounces of water. It's going to take us up to around about 250 mils, 240 mils. Perfect. I'm also going to add into it, just for balance, would you believe, a little bit of lemon juice. I know you probably think, isn't it acidic enough? This is really going to help to balance it out as well. And remember, what we're trying to do with our apple cider vinegar lollies is we're wanting to balance out and to make sure that we've got good stomach acid going on in there. So we're going to be adding in here 2 tablespoons of our fresh, and please use fresh lemon juice. Fresh lemon juice goes in as well. And now we need to think about sweetening it, and the best way to sweeten our apple cider vinegar lollies is with our zero as sugar, our pure erythritol, because of course there's 0 calories. This will have 0 effect on your glycemic index, and I suggest you use our erythritol because it will also give you 0 laxative effects. No one wants to be running off to the toilet. Our erythritol will not do that to you, which is really nice to know. So into our pot, let's add 80 grams, which is 2.7 ounces of our wonderful 0 as sugar goes in there now. Here we go. Yep, perfect. 80 grams. Look, I find that this is a really nice amount because I quite like that sour sweet ability of the gummy. But if you're considering giving these to kids, you might want to add maybe 90 grams, so 3 ounces of the erythritol in there just to give it a bit more sweetener. But for me, for me personally, I find that 80 grams is really, really good. So look at this, by the way. Can you see that? That's completely hardened now. We're going to step over to here first. So onto the cooktop, you want to turn it on, and you want to get it down to quite a low temperature, not too hot. And the reason being is the last thing that we want to do is to bring this liquid to the boil. It's really important that we do this very gently over a nice low heat. Give it a bit of a stir. You may want to move to a wooden spoon instead of a metal one, only because I can't stand the sound of the metal on the pot. So a nice wooden spoon. And what we're doing here is, yes, we are gently heating the mixture, stirring, and I'm keeping an eye on it. And what I'm actually looking for here is I'm looking for the mixture to just come to a bit of a simmer. So definitely remember this, no boiling. So if it boils, it will spoil. Really important that we remember that. So we want to heat it gently. We don't want to negatively impact any of these wonderful ingredients that we have in here. So a gentle simmer coming to the boil, and as I'm stirring it, what I'm looking for is that erythritol, that 0 as sugar, is beginning to dissolve through the liquid as well. And by the way, this will make for you, and if you want to even think of it from a budget perspective, this will make for you between 30 to 40 lollies. So it's really economical as well. You get a good amount off this particular lot of ingredients. So that's coming together nicely. Our gelatin, remember what gelatin is as well. Gelatin is nearly 100% pure protein. It's about 98 to 99% protein. So if you want to talk about what protein does for you, it is the building blocks. It is what is used to repair tissue and muscle and cells and fibers. Protein is so incredibly important for us, and grass-fed gelatin is nearly 100% protein. So weight for weight is almost entirely the same. I put 25 grams, remember? 25 grams of gelatin in here. That's 25 grams of protein, which is incredibly good for our bodies. And it's not only just good because it's protein, it's good for our skin and our hair, because what is basically gelatin? It's cooked collagen. And you guys have all heard you know, how good collagen is for you. So this is like, think about what we're making here. We're making these lollies out of something that's going to make you look beautiful. It's also incredibly good for your gut health, because gelatin has the ability to go into your gut and to protect that delicate lining, to protect the lining of your gut as well, and give you all that big hit of protein. It is amazing stuff. Like, seriously, if you've never tried it, the brand that I use is Nutra Organics. Like I said, they are an Australian brand, but just look for the best quality grass-fed gelatin that you can get your hands on, and you will not be disappointed. So you can see, like I said, what is happening here. I just literally have a big lump of gelatin. In here now, I have, I can see that the erythritol has dissolved really nicely. I've almost brought this up to a simmer. I've got steam coming off it, but I'm keeping my eye on it, because remember, I don't want it to boil. I do not want to boil. I do not want to ruin all the beautiful bits and pieces that we have in our vinegar there. So I'm just allowing it to come to a simmer just nice and gently. And now that it's nearly there, I'm literally just going to take that, you know, which is kind of just like these lumps of our bloomed gelatin, and drop them into the pot. And once again, using my little wooden spoon, I'm just keeping an eye on it, making sure it doesn't come to the boil. And all I'm doing now is allowing the gelatin to fully dissolve through the warm liquid. And already it's smelling very delicious. And it's you'll probably find this really surprising that even though there's a lot of vinegar in there, when I put my head like quite close to the pot, I can actually smell the lemon juice. It is quite surprising. It is quite surprising. So we're just keeping an eye on it. I'm stirring, and as I'm stirring, of course, the liquid is getting a little bit thicker. But what I'm mostly noticing is whether our gelatin is beginning to dissolve. So leaving that there for a second, what I want to discuss with you guys is the type of molds that you can use to set your lollies. Now, you can set them in pretty much anything. You can put it into a plastic, you know, takeaway containers if you wanted to. I have these kind of chocolate molds, and I've got silicone ones which make it really easy to pop them out when they're ready, and I'll show you that in a second. But it's up to you what you choose to set them in. You want to get about 1.5 tablespoons of the liquid into each mold. That'll give you around about, like I said, 30 to 40 lollies in total. So you don't want molds that are too big, and you don't want molds that are too small either, because you want, like I said, you want to get about 30 to 40, because then that literally is one portion of lolly for you. If you are struggling to get, you know, chocolate molds or things like this, what you can do as well, as I was saying, is you can allow it to sit or to set in a plastic takeaway container, and then when it's fully set, you pop it out, and then you can just cut it into your 30 to 40 portions. So that's all right as well. But I'm pretty happy with what's happening here. Like I said, it's almost come to that simmer. We're very, very close. My gelatin has dissolved completely, so I don't see any grains or any granular sort of visuals in my pot, which is really important, and I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to turn it off now. And now that I've got our molds here to show you, we can start thinking about filling them up. So as I was saying, you're looking at about 1.5 tablespoons of the liquid per lolly. That'll give you a good portion, and so you can even fill them up. You'd be surprised how much you can fill them up, right to the top there. So that's all you've got to do, is you've just got to fill up your molds, whatever molds you decide to use. Like these chocolate ones and these silicone ones work so incredibly well. But if you don't have these, then there's nothing stopping you. Plastic container, something that you're able to pop the set jellies out from, the set lolly out from. So you just fill up your molds. And I like to also, when I do my filling of my molds, because I'm using silicone, what I also like to do, if you may have noticed, is I actually already have it on a board, on a little wooden board, because then it makes it really easy for me to transport these into the fridge where they need to set. And if you're just trying to lift up a silicone mold with liquid, you might get liquid everywhere. So just a little tip as well, is that when you are deciding which molds to use, and especially if you use silicone or ones that are quite flimsy like mine, you want to do it on a little board. Just makes it easy. It makes cleanup easier as well. The other thing that you can consider doing is ice cube trays too. If you have quite small ice cube trays, that works good, but they are just sometimes a little bit harder to pop out if it's a really hard plastic ice cube tray. But you know what? I'll leave that up to you guys. You guys know exactly what you can use. I'm sure you're already having to think about what's in the cupboards and what you're going to use to create your lollies. But you fill up all your molds. And then, like, I'll get double this amount, obviously, because I've still got liquid in there, which I'm going to do later on. And then you take your filled molds over to the fridge, and you pop these inside the fridge, and you let them set till they're really firm. Now, that's probably going to take you around about 40 to 60 minutes, so close to an hour. And you know they're really firm because you're able to basically do this. So you want to go up to them, and you want to look at that, and you're able to pop it out. Look at that! Isn't that cool? And you basically made lollies, which is extremely cool. But I'm going to show you one more step. One more step, very important step, by the way. So once your lollies are well set, they're nice and firm, and you'll see what I mean. At about the 25-minute mark, they may look firm, but they'll actually, chances are they'll stick to the molds when you try and pop them out. So you want to wait. You want to wait for about that hour-long period to make sure that they're nice and firm. Because what you want to do now is you want to take up some more erythritol, and we're probably going to add, for all those lollies, you're probably going to need 4 to 5 tablespoons of extra erythritol. And you are going to, this is where that lolly part comes in. I like to store mine in a sealable jar. This is where the lolly part comes in, is you just pop them in there, give them a little bit of a shake, and you have created sugar covered, well, not sugar, are they? Sugar covered lollies. I know. It is brilliant. Now there is something that I need to pass on to you guys when it comes to these. Is remember that the concept of this is to improve the levels of acidity or the pH balance within our stomach. So many of us, without even knowing it, chances are the research is telling us that at least 50% of the population who eat your typical Western diet, so if you eat processed foods, or if you drink alcohol, or if you live, with any type of stress in your life, 50% of us will have low stomach acid. We won't have enough acid to fully be digesting the food that we're eating. Now that number significantly increases if you are someone who suffers from regular bouts of cramping or bloating, or if you're someone who regularly gets constipated or regularly suffers from diarrhea, or if you're someone who has SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or you have IBS, or any of those types of digestive issues, if you're someone who suffers from that, the chance that your stomach acid is not correct goes up to nearly 100% of people who regularly suffer from stomach-related or digestive-related issues. One of the key reasons that we are suffering the way that we do, and this is why I started looking into this, so I wanted to fix my own digestive issues, is that we suffer from having too low stomach acid. Isn't that incredible to know, right? That we can start to improve. I'm going to show you, I've made lots. Yeah, I've got 2 jars in the fridge. We can start to improve the levels of acid that are happening inside of our body by taking one of these. So that there is an ideal time for you to take it, and this is what I teach during the boost camp. The ideal time for you to take your apple cider vinegar lolly is 30 minutes before a meal. Because what's going to happen if you take that 30 minutes before a meal, before you eat, you take it 30 minutes before you eat, what's going to happen is the acid level or the pH level in your stomach is going to drop down. And that's a good thing. That's what you want it to do. You want your pH level to lower, because when it's lower, it means there's more acid. And there isn't, there's a difference in the amount of pH level in your stomach acid, your hydrochloric acid, and apple cider vinegar. But this is going to help to make it more acidic. which is really so important. So 30 minutes before you eat, you want to pop 1 or 2 of those into your mouth, have a couple of chews and take it. Yes, you could be the sort of person who likes to drink apple cider vinegar. I totally don't. I tried it for about a week and I was like, there's no way I can drink a glass of water with this apple cider vinegar every time before I have a meal. It was just, the thought actually stopped me from doing it after a couple of days. I didn't like it at all. But taking a couple of these before a meal is actually one of the easiest things I can do in my day, because guess what? They taste so good. It is literally like you are having a lolly. I'm half an hour away from my first meal of the day, so why not? And they're chewy, and there's a beautiful, beautiful balance of bit of sweetness, bit of sour. If you like sour gummies, I've just made your day, possibly your week or your month or your year, because they taste so incredibly good. And as I was saying, you know now, they are so good for you. They are so incredibly good for you. They're easy to make. They will last in the fridge. As I was saying, store them in an airtight sealed container in the fridge, and they'll last in the fridge for 7 to 10 days. But one batch normally it's lasting me about a week because I have been known in between, yes, before a meal, I take them before a meal, but sometimes after a meal too, I have one because they taste really nice. And they're so good for me. So I will be sharing this recipe with you guys tomorrow on Bridget's Healthy Kitchen on our main recipe page. If you would like to request a PDF copy sent out to you. If you are a boost camper, these are going to be on our boost camp. Why are they on our boost camp? Because of all the wonderful reasons I told you about why we need to be really aware of just how important our stomach acid is and how we can improve the level of acid in our stomach to make sure that we're digesting all the food, we're getting all the nutrients are going to the right places in our body. We're not having bloating and cramping and pain and gas because the food is being fully digested properly in our stomach before it even goes into our intestines. So it is all round a pretty good thing. So I hope you've enjoyed today. I probably should, the reason it's actually good they live in the fridge, because it would be far too easy for me to sit in front of the TV and eat all of them. That's probably not a good idea. There'd be too much acid then. They live in the fridge. Like I said, if you want the recipe, keep an eye out tomorrow on Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. Until then, guys, everyone stay well and stay safe. And I will see you next time here in the kitchen for more healthy, delicious recipes. Bye, everyone.